All right, everyone, we are back. It's Sons of Pitches, episode 5, the third iteration of our weekend review. We got a lot of Prem games, 2 rounds of Prem games, matter of fact. We got the Boxing Day. It's post-holiday. Hope everybody had a great time with their family. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. Got a little Serie A action, too. A lot of the other leagues on breaks. But, boys, how did the weekend start? How did it go? What do we think?
Well, I think it's only right that we start with the top of the table clash in England in the Premier League. I mean, a lot of controversy. I thought it was a pretty entertaining game. I'm sure a lot of people and you guys all watched it. But 1-1 on paper doesn't look like an entertaining game. But I mean, it was open throughout. I think it was end to end. Both teams were playing for 3 points. A little bit of sloppy defending, in my opinion, to begin the game from Liverpool, and we saw that from the set piece, and that's how they conceded. And I don't know, from that first 15 minutes, I really felt like Arsenal were going to go and really snatch the game and take control from there, and one ball over the top from Trent just unlocked the whole game for Liverpool, and it kind of switched from there, and that was the story. I mean, we all know there was some controversy. I'm sure we're going to talk about it with the VAR decision. I mean, in my opinion, Odegaard's playing basketball there with the ball. I think it's a penalty all day. Saliba after the game he made me laugh. He said that he thought that it should have been a penalty. He thought the ref made a mistake. So if the players are saying that, I think that tells you everything you need to know. I don't know what you guys thought about it.
That was pretty egregious. I think that's a pen every day. So for that not to be called, not to be reviewed, I think we talked about it earlier. It was like they thought it was a slip, and that's why they didn't call it. That's unreal. That's definitely a pen every day.
So it's a penalty all day, I think. Anyway, I mean, he's falling. Sure, he's kind of running away from it, but I mean, come on, his hands outside like that and trying to kick the ball past him, and he touches it to himself. Like, it should have been a penalty. And like you said, if Saliba's saying it, then you got to think something's wrong with that.
And you know what? The other thing that confuses me too about it is like the excuse they made is that he slipped. But if a player slips and like tackles them and he fouls them, it's a penalty every time.
Exactly.
Bad luck, he slipped, but they call it every time. So why is it that he slipped in handball? It's not handball. Like,
that was a makeup call for all the controversial VAR decisions against Arsenal. So they had to give him one.
And, of course, Klopp's always like, oh, VAR, they're always against us. So
I can't stand Klopp.
To complain about.
All he does is complain. I don't know if you guys remember a couple seasons ago when he was complaining about how the grass is too wet or the air was too much snow in the air. He was just complaining. I cannot stand the way he complains. He drives me nuts.
Yeah, there's something I used to admire Klopp a lot with the way he sets up ball when he was at Dortmund, and like that first Liverpool team that we all got so fond of when it was Salah, Mane, and Firmino and stuff. Like, in terms of tactics, I love Klopp, but yeah, dude, Klopp comes up with the craziest shit sometimes. Like, I don't understand. Like, dude, just say it like it is, and be the manager that's just like, oh, our team did not perform that well today, but we got a result. You know what I mean? Nice and simple, classic conference. Like, just move on, and he just doesn't.
Yeah. It's crazy because he should be such a likable guy. Like, he's a really good manager. Like, the way he goes about it is nice, but man, he's a pain in the ass when it comes to that stuff.
I can't believe Simicast broke his collarbone too. I don't know if you guys saw him get bodied, and they were like asking for endangerment, and I was like, he got bodied, he fell, unlucky fall, broke his collarbone. As somebody who has broke their collarbone, I mean, what are you supposed to do? He got bodied, he fell over, hit Klopp. I mean, we don't know really. I think he broke it when he hit the ground rather than hitting him, but. Wanted to touch on my boy Salah. What a great goal he scored. Absolutely sent Zinchenko to the shops. Yeah. Zinchenko, I think, defensive liability, just like Trent on the other side. So I thought it was pretty cool to have them, attack at each other. But yeah, that goal was fantastic, and
classic.
Shouting out the guy once again. Classic goal too. Little cut inside, little near post finish. I mean, it really doesn't get better than that.
That was unbelievable too. I mean, 70 yards on a dime.
I know. He's insane.
Yeah, that was like some classic Liverpool attack where Trent pings a ball.
Yeah.
Salah cuts in.
It's like out of nothing, dude.
Yeah.
Like just he looks up and he's like, oh, he's on the end line, like on the defensive line, and just sends it. Salah's onside, goes down, cooks somebody, and scores it.
Yeah.
How many times have we
That's
seen
been
it?
rare
You
for
know?
Liverpool this season, though. That's something that they've definitely been known for, but yeah, it's been really not happening recently. So I guess it's good to see them. I mean, I don't enjoy them as a team. I don't
Yeah, me
enjoy
neither.
them, but it's nice to see that play is back because it's exciting to watch.
Yeah. It's interesting that they're at the top of the Premier League because it doesn't seem like we've sat here and talked that many times, since the podcast has started or even before the podcast, that many times about how well Liverpool are playing or anything, yet they're sitting top of the table with 2 points. Yeah, Arsenal still have a game in hand, but still it's like a quiet dominance, I guess. It's weird.
Yeah, they're a bit anonymous this season, but I mean, they're getting wins, they're getting results. But I think that game proved that they can definitely. It's the two of them are definitely going to go toe to toe probably the entire season. Liverpool and Arsenal, that is. So that should be a good title race throughout the season.
Agreed.
And also, real quick on Liverpool, we talked about this before. Pretty impressive how deep their squad is, considering how many departures they've had. Like they have a lot of injuries. They've got both their left backs are out. Lost a starting center back in Matip to an ACL for the season. Bunch of injuries all over the place, and they can still afford to bring off either like a Gakpo or a Jota off the bench and get results. So, still pretty impressive from them.
Yeah. Before we move on from this game real quick, I just wanted to shout out Endo real quick because I was really impressed with him against Arsenal. I thought he was, in my opinion, just as good, if not better, than Declan Rice in the midfield. And Declan Rice cost Arsenal 100 million. So I thought he was really, really good in the game. He covered every blade of glass in my opinion, and he was breaking up play. He was calm on the ball. He did what what was needed of him, and I thought it was pretty impressive in my opinion.
Yeah, I shouted out Endo last pod too. I was going to say he had a good game. The only thing I disagree with that point is, Rice has been playing at this level, and West Ham came immediately over to Arsenal to start in the ball. But Endo took a little bit for him to get warmed up, no matter how much he cost. But kind of helps with what Jason said, all the departures. Now he's kind of forced to play, so now he's like getting that repeated game form. So I don't know if you guys have seen the stats with or without him, but like they're terrible without him this season, and they're like, conceded like a minimal amount of goals with him playing at that, like really in the center of the park. So it's pretty cool to see. I like that kid. I think he's going to be good.
Yeah, I think
for a couple of more years.
I think that's an interesting point that Jay brought up about their depth and stuff, because I think Liverpool was kind of coming under a little bit of scrutiny in their transfers because there was a time where they were so top heavy where they had like 3 full lines. I mean, 2 or 3 lines of forwards, you know what I mean? Like 6 to 8 forwards up top, but then like a lack of depth in the midfield. But then there was that one summer they didn't make like any purchases except for like one young kid. But now all these like low-key academy come-ups and low-key purchases that they made over a couple seasons have now matured and grown into the starting 11 and into the first team every now and then through substitutions, and it's obviously really working out for them because they're making a nice, quiet, calm run at the top of the table. So,
dude, I mean, Konate and Joe Gomez have been playing great this season.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
like Gomez at left back was like Saka probably had one of his quietest games that I've seen in a long time. Even though, I mean, they say the rating was okay, but not for me. I didn't really think he did that much in the game. And then Konate was just like all over Jesus and Martinelli, like couldn't get past him at all. He was like a wall back there. So it's going to be scary if they can really start peppering some goals in.
Yeah. Just to piggyback off on that, I was just going to say Joe Gomez is playing out of position, and he has been all season, and he's been playing well when he plays. So, and I mean, it's tough for them now. My only disagreement with their depth is their depth sucks in defense, in my opinion. They have no real other right back besides Trent, no left backs now that Tsimikas got hurt as well. So they're going to have to make some signings in the summer there. Yeah. But if they do pick someone up and they make some good signings, I think they're going to be the team to beat, in my opinion.
Yeah, they had the depth before the injuries, like Jay said.
Don't mention center back purchases in front of me and Nate because we're very protective of those.
Yeah, they might become hunting. Another club in England who had a big weekend, 6 points, and desperately needed it because they haven't been all that great this season. Wolves pick up 2 straight back-to-back wins. First being against the lovely Chelsea, correct? Yep. How do we feel about that game? What do we feel about Wolves this weekend?
I have Lamina in my SoRare team, and I've had him in there since I downloaded the app at the beginning of the season. And just he gets a man of the match performance, scores a goal. So we've seen it before, and not to transition to the other game, but he had a great game, and we'll touch on that after. But I think he's been their star player this season. So just wanted to put that out there. For sure.
Against Chelsea, like you said, Pat, Lamina was the man for them. I thought he was probably the most influential player on the field. He was doing everything from the middle of the park. Wolves definitely won the midfield battle for me, and that probably was the reason they won the game. I thought Chelsea was pretty poor, to be honest, in this game. It took them 96 minutes to score, and it's Nkunku, which is, good for them to see him come in and score. He's starting to make his impact in the team, and now that he's fit and he looks like he could be a player. So, I would be surprised if he doesn't do anything for them from here, because there's definitely a lot of talent there. You can see that. And just from the way he moves and where he picks up the ball, and even the attention he attracts when he doesn't have the ball, to be honest, I think it's going to be a really powerful thing for Chelsea moving forward. So, against Wolves, I thought they were pretty crap, but we'll talk about them more after. They kind of pick it up from there. But Wolves, like we said, Wolves been playing a little better recently. I think they have. I don't know how to feel about this Wolves team, to be honest. They're kind of weird to me. Like, sometimes I watch them play and I'm like, wow, this Wolves team is good. Like, they're fun to watch. And then other times I watch them, I'm like, what are they doing? Jose Sa in goal for me, really, he doesn't instill confidence for me at all. Like, when I watch that guy play, every time he's dropping the ball. He's making simple mistakes. He just doesn't do it for me. And there's some players I really like watching in this team. Some players that just aggravate me, like Nelson Semedo's not one for me. He's been playing pretty well recently, but I don't know. Wolves are a weird team for me. I don't know how to feel about them sometimes.
Yeah, with Wolves, we forget they lost their coach at the beginning of the season before it even started early. So Gary O'Neill took over without much preseason prep and all that. And this is also basically the same squad. I don't think anybody really came in from
Sarabia
last season.
In, right?
I think he was already in last season, and they were in a relegation scrap all year. So this is the same squad. So I think credit's got to be given to Gary O'Neill for getting this going. And I know we've talked about it, and it's been pretty public that they've been shafted by a lot of VAR decisions this season too. So they probably should be higher up in the table than they already are, and they're already doing pretty decent, all things considered. So definitely interesting to see how they're doing this year, and that's with Neto missing a good portion of the season too with injuries so far.
Yeah,
he's their best player. So, but also, Hee Chan now is scoring 10 goals this season. I think I saw something. It's like the third time a Wolves player's ever done that in the Prem. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, as Pep calls him,
mid-season.
A Korean guy.
Yeah.
He's having a good year. I like how you shouted him out.
So, it's definitely cool to see. But I think he went off injured today, which is unfortunate. But
he did, yeah.
Yeah, they're a fun little team right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sarabia got there in January, by the way. That's why I forgot.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I was just looking at their transfers. Only a couple signings. Most of them don't see as much field time besides Bueno at center back. But yeah, I agree with G. It's a little bit of a streaky team where they're kind of hot or cold for a couple of games. But they have some interesting talent. Like, I like Totti Gomez at defense, a Portuguese guy. Wolves used to be a little bit more Portuguese than they are now, but he looks like a solid young defender. I think Pablo Sarabia was our best player at Sporting.
Yeah.
For a couple of seasons, for one season I should say, when he was on loan from PSG. And I think he fits in well. I think he's a talented player that didn't get his chance for a while, and I think getting his chance now in the Prem. is good.
Yeah, he's been playing good.
I think they have a couple good signings. I think Lemina, like you guys said, like I think he started off a little bit slow, right? He got that like red card in the first 4 games or whatever.
He's always gets a red card every once in a while, which is
he's a
probably
really
the biggest
aggressive
downside.
Yeah, just a super aggressive player. But that can be really good for a Prem team. I mean, you see players like that everywhere, like Ndidi for that Leicester City. You had Palhinha for Fulham. Like those kinds of players, like they win the midfield. They help you. Those kinds of teams stay up.
Losing Ruben Neves, you needed an experienced Premier League midfielder to come in and kind of take this place. So that's been good, and it's good for João Gomes. They brought in a Brazilian kid. He needs somebody experienced next to him to kind of lead him through that, and that's a pretty good partnership they're forming right now.
Yeah, because that's a whole new dynamic. Because Ruben Neves and João Moutinho, that was like an in-sync duo, on another level. So that was a lot.
Yeah, and lost Matheus Nunes as well. So
right, it's a lot to replace.
Yep.
Moving on to a team not doing so well, not having such a good record, is Brentford, who are on 4 straight losses. Sitting currently, where are they? 14th. 14th. So I mean, they had a decent, mild start, but just can't do anything about it right now. Anything to say about them?
Yeah, I mean, I watched the game today. I thought this is what I mean about Wolves. Like I didn't think Wolves played unbelievable in this game at all. Like I think Brentford really pissed this game away, to be honest. Like they conceded 4 goals that were all 4 goals of their own doing. Like I think one of their players was at fault probably for 3 of them, to be honest. So he really had a nightmare. He had a real stinker of a night. One to forget for him, but yeah, like it was just kind of sad to watch. I mean, Brentford's a team I like. I like Thomas Frank. He's a manager that I'm a fan of. I think he's got good tactics, and they're always a fun team to me. I like the atmosphere watching them play, and yeah, I mean, to see them where they are now, struggling as much as they are and making these simple mistakes, it's kind of weird because it's not really something I know Brentford for doing, really.
I think it's just one of those games, though, because, I mean, if you look at the stat sheet, I mean, we're talking Brentford with 60% possession. They had more expected goals at 2.16 to Wolves' 2.1. 3 big chances missed. So, like, more shots, more passes, more corners. Like, they should have capitalized on the game, but, they let it slip away, like you said, and Wolves made them pay. All the chances they got, they put away, so.
Yeah, and if we're looking at the form table, right, last 5 matches, the only people below them are Newcastle and Palace, so they already lost 4 straight, Brentford. So honestly, I think it may be time to be a little bit concerned about potential relegation for them. There's a couple of the bottom teams currently there going on a few runs, so I wouldn't be too surprised if in a couple weeks we see them right around relegation zone. Because they haven't been doing too hot.
I agree.
Yeah, that is it's a good point you make about the bottom 3 because none of those 3 are really all that close. I mean, I guess Crystal Palace are only about 3 points clear of relegation, but like Newcastle sitting 8th is second to last in the table for the last 5 games, so they're on a fucking terrible streak right now. Suffering to our good friends Nunu and Chris Wood brings us to that game, which is a fantastic game. Great bring into Boxing Day.
Yeah.
Who got to watch that game?
I watched the Chris Wood Goal Fest. I was not getting up at 7:30 in the morning, unfortunately. I was up, but I was working. So just to touch on this game, this is what we call Premier League Boxing Day Classic. The earliest game in the morning, everybody thinks is going to be a fucking stinker. And then Chris Wood goes out and scores a hat trick on Newcastle, who are, obviously just got lost out of the Champions League and out of European football, but, that just shows that, they have a good team. I mean, we're talking about, Newcastle. They were on a tear at the beginning of the season, and now they're kind of slowly, getting the air taken out of them. I want to read a quick stat for my friend Chris Wood here. I mean, we're talking a hat trick in the Premier League on Boxing Day. So I want to go over a couple of the notable names that he's shared with. So Thierry Henry has scored a Boxing Day hat trick in the Premier League. Kevin Phillips has scored. Robbie Fowler has scored. Berbatov has scored. Gareth Bale has scored, Harry Kane has scored, and Chris Wood has scored a Boxing Day hat trick. So just to kind of go to show, I mean, we're talking about, 5 legendary strikers. Kevin Phillips, I don't know too much, but I was going over a little bit of his history. So he actually did last Englishman to win the European Golden Boot, which is really interesting in the 99-2000 season for being the top goal scorer in the Prem. And then Chris Wood. So Chris Wood definitely doesn't fit with the rest of those guys, but, it just goes to show, Premier League, Boxing Day, something special about those fixtures, man. You just got to love it.
I'd argue he deserves to be there just like anyone else.
He does. I did watch this game. I was at work, but I did watch it. I was up at that time in the morning after Christmas, so I would manage to be able to catch it. Newcastle, piss poor again. I mean, there's excuses of the team being tired. They're not as deep as they should be. This and that, but in my opinion, I think it's the Premier League. I mean, everybody knows how it goes. They all know how it should be. I think to keep saying they're tired at this point is a little bit of an over exaggeration. I think
stretch.
It's an excuse at this point. And I think Eddie Howe needs to really start figuring out what to do, because if he doesn't turn this thing around, I think he's going to be in some hot water. And as for Nottingham Forest, I mean, I've watched them play both games so far under Nuno, and I think they look fantastic. They look a completely different side. I mean, they're playing a lot more attacking brand of football, and I think it's really beneficial for their players that they have. I mean, if you look at guys like Morgan Gibbs-White and Alanga, like, those are guys that can really get forward and create chances and are really electric when they have the ball and they can run and when they can find space. And that's also good for a guy like Chris Wood, who can run into that space. I know he's not that known for his space, but he definitely showed it against Newcastle. I mean, he had the Jets on it for a couple of those goals. I mean, he looked like Ronaldo Fenomeno for a couple of times. And I mean, that might be just because Newcastle were so bad on the day, but it could also be because Chris Wood is actually a certified bagsman. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I think things are looking up for Nottingham Forest. I mean, they're right down there in the relegation scrap right now. But I think if I was a Nottingham Forest fan, I'd be pretty excited for what's to come with Nuno there now.
Yeah. The excuse me, the Forest squad is pretty similar to kind of what Wolves was when Nuno took them to the Prem. So you have that target true number 9 like Raul Jimenez with Chris Wood that you can expect is going to score a ton of goals, and then you also have those pacey wingers like a Diogo Jota that they had, Pedro Neto. So like it's a very similar team that's constructed. So I can definitely see them having a lot of success under Nuno. So hopefully this statement doesn't come back to bite us. But they were probably looking at relegation before he took over. So I could see them having a pretty comfortable finish throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah,
I wanted to shout out Alanga too. Nate, you can go ahead.
No, you finished. Good.
I was gonna say I wanted to keep Alanga instead of Anthony, but when they bought Anthony, I knew Alanga was gonna go, and I was fine with selling him then. But to see Alanga now running down the wing and tapping the ball across to Chris Wood, I wasn't very happy. Happy for him, not happy for losing out on him. But I always did like him. I think he had the potential. The problem is he just needed to start, and he wasn't going to get it with us.
I'm glad you mentioned the Alanga thing, because I actually wanted to mention how we were giving Nottingham, probably for the past couple of seasons, a lot of people in the media giving them a lot of crap about their transfer policies and stuff when they came up into the Prem, because they basically got rid of their entire squad and replaced them with like 20 some odd players. Chris Wood being one of those weird signings that they made that everybody was like, well, this is not the striker you should sign if you want to stay up in the Premier League. And then they brought in the right people. That Willy Bolly, gets a red card against Bournemouth, probably very undeserved. That was some controversial stuff. But Chris Wood gets 5 goal contributions in the last 2 games. He gets Alanga, like Pat was just mentioning, is obviously a Prem like somewhat veteran because he played at United for a season, and it, like Gibbs, White, and just different players that have played at different clubs in the Prem, and they've constructed a team. And now with Nuno Espírito Santo, who is a guy that managed to have a really good first season with Wolves and then got sacked, knows how to play in the Prem, and we could actually finally see all that craziness when they came up into the Prem come into something more positive.
I think I cut out there at the end. Did
you
I?
are back. You are back.
Yeah. All right. Just making sure.
But speaking of Bournemouth, great form that they are in right now. If I'm not wrong, they are sitting top of the table when we look at the last 5 matches. Any insight into their success? If anybody's been keeping tabs on their matches.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think their success is really all down to Dominic Solanke. I think if you look at a lot of the teams down there in the bottom half of the table and around 10th places, they're one of the few that have one of those guys up top who's a real killer, who can really find the back of the net and get you a double-digit amount of goals in the Premier League. And that's really paying dividends for them. We're seeing it now. I mean, they're in 10th place. I mean, they started out terribly. I was kind of shocked their manager didn't get sacked out after the way they started, but they really turned it around. I mean, they've played really good football. I mean, shout out to Alex Scott. I thought he was fantastic in the Boxing Day game. I thought he was brilliant. I mean, the assist that he had for Justin Kluivert, he cut up about 3 or 4 guys. He ran about 40 yards with the ball, went into the box and played a beautiful pass off. And I think he's one of those guys that's really high rated. I think they have a lot of young guys, and they've made a lot of sneaky little good summer signings that not too many people were talking about. And we might be surprised where they finish by the end of the season. I think a lot of people are surprised by where they are now. I mean, they're sitting in 10th in the table, and I don't think anybody would have predicted that going into the season. So we'll see where they go from here. I mean, they're playing great football. They're moving the ball well. They're not afraid. They're certainly not afraid to play against some of the bigger teams. That's for sure. So we'll see what happens with them.
Yeah, since they beat us, I've been kind of keeping a little bit of a kind of watchful eye on them. That guy Scott, CDM again with another man of the match performance. I mean, he had one against us. He had one this game against Fulham. So it was very interesting to see. And you shout out Kluivert. I mean, we haven't really seen much of him kind of get going. So it's good to see him.
Yeah,
Good to see him get on the score sheet. And then Solanke, just like you said, that he's one of those guys. I think he's really starting to show his worth this season. I mean, you were talking hat trick in the other game, and now a goal against Fulham and 2 goals against United. I mean, that's 6 goals in 3 games. So it sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, Kluivert. I mean, he's coming from us. He came from Roma. I mean, when he signed with us, I think there was a lot of people that had a lot of promise for him. I thought we all expected big things from him, and he really has not lived up to that at all. We've sent him out on loan a couple of times. I'm pretty sure we sold him now. I don't think we own him anymore. I'm pretty sure Bournemouth own him outright now. So we'll see what he can do from here. I hope he does well. He's one that I always had a little bit of a soft spot for, considering who his father was. So.
Yeah, not for nothing. Bournemouth had that performance with a few of their players that you'd probably expect to start out injured too. So they're still continuing to do pretty good. Yeah, like you said, Solanke's been pretty much a revelation this season, which honestly, it's about time considering the hype he's had. Probably expected this a long time ago, even when he was at Liverpool and stuff. And they're actually looking to sign him again after his good run of form, which is just typical Premier League. But yeah, no, it's a good story and another reason why you should never just quit on a manager and give him a little bit more time, because it looks like he's got them playing very well right now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because that goal against Fulham puts him. I was just talking about Chris Wood with 5 goal contributions. He has 4 goals in 2 games this weekend. And then that win against Fulham puts Fulham. We may have just jinxed Fulham. We were in one of the pods. We hyped up the fact that they had 15 goals or 17 goals in the past 3 or 4 games, and now they've gone 3 Premier League games without one and conceding something like 9. So they're in a rut, and maybe it was the little podcast curse. Maybe we have power, maybe we don't. But that is a poor run of form for them. But a club on back-to-back wins this weekend, which will surprise a lot of people, because I bet you everybody and their mother would have put money down at the beginning of the season that they were going straight back down, and they still might, but right now they might not. We're looking at Luton, who are on back-to-back wins at the top of the relegation zone, trying to work their way out. I think that's really nice to see. I think that's really fun. They're on a game at hand above the clubs above them. So if they win, they're straight out of the relegation zone if they win their 19th round.
Yeah, good little story. They gave both Arsenal and City a game where they both had to really fight for wins against them, and then 2 consecutive wins right after that. So good performances. I always thought Luton was kind of a team. They were building a team with all their signings that was basically just going to be the best team in the championship. It was all pretty much like average players, good championship level players. So not the biggest surprise that they're kind of actually getting some wins together. We'll see how sustainable it is, but yeah, definitely fun to watch.
Yeah, I like to play a little bit of FM, so I like these kind of stories, teams coming up. And they did what we would consider as an FM player a smart move by getting loan players from bigger clubs who obviously rate these young players, right? Because they want them in the first team one day playing in the Premier League, and then a couple of Premier League legends or veterans that are outcasted. You pull in Tim Krul, you pull in Ross Barkley, you pull in players that have played in the Prem before, know what it's like to play in the league. And you hope they can crack out a couple wins for you. And
I'm glad you said that, Nate.
And
I was going to mention that too.
Yeah.
I mean, the game against Newcastle 1-0, I mean, we're talking Ross Barkley assist, Andrew Townsend goal,
right.
Barkley man of the match.
Right.
To see that is just, pretty. Those are two, Prem streets will never forget type of players. So, I mean, talking Cross Barkley and, the famous volley himself. So, it's just cool to see, and it makes me warm, in that little stadium that they got two, I consider Premier League legends. Not form and quality wise, but just the names hold weight in our generation. It's really interesting to see.
And those guys, they know the guys they're coming up against. A lot of the other guys on Luton have no idea. They see him on TV, but Ross Barkley and Townsend know a lot of these dudes by name that they're playing against, and that helps a locker room a lot. I think that helps the team play on the pitch.
If I was I'm going to Luton, and then I see the team sheet and I see I got to play Ross Barkley in midfield, I don't think I would be too happy. If I seen a player like Lakonga, okay, now I don't really know Lakonga, but I've seen Ross Barkley score some absolute bangers, and I know he, works really hard in the midfield, and he's just one of those players that you just have to. You never know which one you're gonna get out of him. So.
Right. No,
but I think that's a good point that you made. That experience really holds weight, especially on a team like this.
Yeah, I think it's done right and it's reflecting. And if I think they can do a little bit more right in January, if they have any of the Premier League funds left over, we could see something real serious. Because as it looks right now, if they can keep that hot streak going into that 19th round halfway through the season, they'll be out of the relegation zone, which I think would surprise a lot of people.
I think they're going to stay up. That's my little prediction of the year. I think they're going to get through and stay up.
We will see. We will see.
Yep.
How about West Ham? We have time today to talk about Premier League, so let's go. Let's go club by club. They beat Man United, which we'll get to Man United, but it started this weekend on a rough note. How did that game go, Pat?
It did not go very well, as you would expect. So, I'm sorry, I'm just pulling up the lineup here. So, the game was pretty rough, I'm not going to lie. We did not look like everybody looked tired. Nobody looked like they wanted to play at all. It was pretty embarrassing, honestly. We were just knocking the ball around. It felt like for 70 minutes until they scored. We had a couple shots on target, big chance missed. Clearly, I can't even remember who it was because I'm so focused on yesterday's game. It's I kind of remove the loss out of my head and focus on the win over here. But Kudu's showing again. He's a problem. He's having a really good season. Jared Bowen again getting on the score sheet. I mean, those two guys have been pivotal for West Ham this season. Bowen more so last year than this year. Paqueta with another assist. It was good to see Kambwala play, the center back. Carrington player. So that was really interesting to see. I think he's going to be good. I think it's good that Ten Hag's trying to get him some experience. Garnacho put in a stinker. It just couldn't get by anybody, couldn't really create anything. I felt kind of bad for him. Højlund took him off. He looked tired. Didn't look like he wanted to run as much as he did yesterday. So the best player I think was, Luke Shaw had a good game at left back. That's really all I could say. And just a quick shout out. Oh, sorry. I remember what I wanted to talk about. McTominay. I mentioned him last time, and you guys said he scores the goals. I get it, but having him up front, I don't know if you guys watched the game at all, but he pushes up so far as a center defensive mid. Like it's so hard to watch Manu just sit there by himself and like take on the midfielders by himself. Like he can't do it alone, right? So McTominay just goes up, gets lost. The other portion I wanted to talk about McTominay, which was link up play. He is an absolute liability in link up play. You cannot give that man the ball with his back to the goal, like in his own half. Like he doesn't know where he needs to play the ball. He loses the ball. Can't take a good touch. He's very, very bad at playing that link up center mid role. And so yesterday we got to see him out of the lineup, and we'll touch on that after. But I could turn it over to you guys if you guys had any thoughts on the game.
Yeah, go ahead.
For me, real quick, I mean, I think West Ham kind of a little bit of surprise for me this season. I think going into the season, I probably would have told you I think David Moyes was going to get sacked at some point this year, and he kind of turned things around. I mean, I think the signing of Kudus definitely made a massive difference for him, and I'm glad he figured out a way to use him because he was a player that I really admired at Ajax, and I was hoping he'd come into the Premier League and really make an impact, and he is, and he's doing really, really well for them. Same with Lucas Paqueta. I know I shouted him out in the last episode, but I mean, he's pretty much been involved in the last 5 goals. I mean, that guy's a baller. I mean, his vision is unbelievable in my opinion. I think there's very few players in the Premier League that can spot the passes that he can spot. He even the acquisition of James Ward-Prowse in my opinion is a sneaky good one because I think a lot of people probably would have wanted James Ward-Prowse, but I feel like they don't rate him that much in England. He doesn't get picked for the England squad. I mean, the press doesn't really talk about him that much outside of his free kicks, really, which is just stupid in my opinion. Because if you actually watch the guy play, he's a fucking fantastic player in my opinion. So. I mean, I think West Ham's kind of a surprise package for me. So we'll see where they can go. I mean, they're sitting in 7th place right now. They're definitely in the fight for the European places this year. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, I always thought West Ham were always going to be solid this year. They definitely struggled last year. I don't know if it was the balance with getting the extra Europa League or is it Europa League Conference League games. So they kind of struggled with that balance, but it seems like they got it more under control this year. They brought in a few more reinforcements. Granted, they lost Declan Rice, their captain and best player, which they really haven't replaced well in midfield. They definitely miss him. But bringing in Alvarez and Ward-Prowse has definitely helped fill the void a bit. But yeah, they're a good team. This is where they should be. I mean, if we're talking about big clubs in England, outside the big 6, the next 3 or 4 are going to be like West Ham, Newcastle, and Everton and Villa. So they're basically where they should be, just outside the top 6. So yeah, I think they're a solid team. Definitely a fun team to watch. So yeah, I'll probably expect them to be right around here for the rest of the season, between like 6th and 10th.
Yeah, I put Brighton over Everton because Everton kind of suck, but I think
as a club,
I agree.
Not a team.
Right. I agree. I think James Ward-Prowse is a great shout because I think he allows Paqueta to drift more out wide and become this like inverted winger role, which I think allows him a lot more freedom and creativity. Which, if you've followed him throughout his career, he's a very creative player. Obviously, likes to dance when he scores goals and stuff like that. But that's just his personality. It's just his play style. So having that creativity allows him to be directly involved with goals, which we've seen so much this season. And then James Ward-Prowse, like you said, is just a fantastic player. I think he is top notch. He knows how to help like build up play. I think like when United pick up Eriksen, like for that, aged, I know it's on a free transfer, but that like aged, seasoned veteran, someone who can really control the ball in the midfield and play it. I think Ward-Prowse would have been a much better pickup than Eriksen for that exact role. You know what I mean? To distribute, to link up play with Bruno, I think that would have been smarter. And for some reason, like you were saying again, like they just don't rate him at the big clubs for some reason, or maybe there's something else. Maybe it's him that doesn't want to go to a bigger club. But he is a very good player, and I think I think that acquisition of those central players, like Kudus is also more of a central player, but playing out in that inverted wide space. Your brother, if he was here, he used to talk about him all the time. He would love to be chatting about him right now. He is a great player, and I think yeah, I think those couple guys changed that team and have brought them all the success that they have brought today. But a little change of pace from our normal podcast proceedings, where we only have to talk a lot of crap about United. United won a game recently, you know. Pat, I'll just let you go since normally we have to talk shit.
Well, thank you, Nate. I appreciate the floor. All right, so first half, dreadful. We concede from a goal, a set piece. G, I have a question for you on this goal as well. I want to get through the first half first. So we concede from the John McGinn free kick from right hand side, comes in, everybody freezes, nobody touches it, goal in, no problem. Second set piece was a great set piece. I don't know if you guys they showed the replay. Basically, they picked Mano, who was supposed to be covering Lenglet, and then he headed the ball across. Den Donker flicked it in. Three United guys on the line, and then Onana. So make it 4. Around the 30th or so minute, they really started to turn it on. I really thought they were going to score by the end of the first half, but the chance just didn't come. So going into halftime, I was optimistic, but I was very frustrated with the way we were playing. So before I move into the second half and that great comeback, G, for the first goal for McGinn, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way I'm thinking about it is he whips it in, and Onana has to wait for somebody to touch it because of the way that the ball's delivered. And the fact that, Ollie Watkins really jumped up super high and actually missed the kick. And that there was another person who was in the mix as well who swung a foot and missed as well. So, thinking that somebody's going to touch it, do you think that maybe United should have had somebody rush to the line quicker? Or do you think that, Onana should have grabbed that?
So yeah, a lot. I know there was a lot of people questioning Onana on this, and personally, for me, I see, as a goalkeeper, you have to hesitate. You have to wait and see if the ball is going to get deflected by a player before you can make that decision. My question with him on this goal is his positioning, because he's flat-footed, dude. He's caught ball watching. That's the reason why he concedes there. If he's on his toes, he's going to make that save. He doesn't have to move far to get his body in the way, in my opinion.
Yep.
And that's why I think he's at fault. I don't think he's at fault because he's not getting there. I think he's at fault because he's flat-footed and he's ball watching. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'd agree with that. If he was taller, though, I think that's one you got to claim. That's one where his physical attributes are probably holding him back a bit. I mean, if you're talking about a Courtois who's 6'7", he's claiming that every day.
I don't think so, because
the problem is that you have so many people running onto the net. We're talking
it wasn't played deep enough for him to come get it. He couldn't. So if he had started
the 4-yard line, right?
Maybe that's another part on his positioning too, because like I said, maybe he's a little bit deep. Actually, I am watching it right now, and as I'm watching it, his starting position is deep. He's standing right on his goal line. Does he have to be right on his goal line? Not really. Yeah. Because that ball is not getting shot from that position. It's going to get played into the box. So, like I said, not only is his position poor once the ball is played into the box, his position's not really great starting off either. So, just not really great all around from him there.
See, I think I agree that he has to wait and see if anybody touches it. But that's if you want to make the catch. I mean, he could just stick a fist at that ball. You know what I mean? You say if he's taller, but he's 6'2". And you should still be able to punch that ball quicker than anybody else can get ahead on it. And I think it's funny because that goal was kind of comedic, because I was watching that game in the midst of doing a couple other things, and I had just looked at the screen and I just see Leon Bailey talking shit in his ear behind him, and I'm like, what is going on right now? And then he just runs away. But from that moment on, if you watch that clip over, after Leon Bailey says some shit, it almost looks like Onana's still thinking about it, because he doesn't move. From that moment on, that Leon Bailey runs away, puts his head down and runs away when the ball comes in, Onana's frozen. And
frazzled.
I think he's and it's funny because I think you nailed it when we talked about last week about the emotional thing. I think Leon Bailey said some shit to him. He was like, oh, and then he just thought about it or something. I don't know if he was trying to come up with a rebuttal in his head and just got caught in the moment. But yeah,
Leon Bailey probably said this is going straight in.
He said something.
That right there was oh,
that was perfect.
This might actually go straight in.
Yeah,
I know.
That ball is
wonder
dangerous.
ball.
That's like
Credit where credit.
David
That's
Beckham
the
cross
toughest
where
ball for a goalkeeper, 100%.
For sure.
Because you know why that's the toughest ball? Because Onana has to make a decision
right.
if he's gonna come or if he's gonna stay, and that's why
Right.
he hesitates. Because
Yep.
if he comes, he doesn't have to make a decision on hesitating because he's already going there. But he stays, he hesitates, he doesn't know if someone's gonna get a touch on it, and there you go, he concedes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I only ask because I've seen you do both. I've seen that ball come in and you save it, hesitate. I've seen you come out, punch it.
It's
I've also
very
seen you
situational.
concede. So I've
Very
seen all three
Yeah.
scenarios from you. So I wanted to know your opinion. I agree with the waiting. I think that coming out you risk the chance of fouling somebody when I mean, like you said, situational, not a goalkeeper, but. I thought staying was the right move. I just think his positioning was poor. I think he was too deep. Looked like he was in the net by the time the ball went in. So, yeah, I can move to the second half. I mean, you want to talk about a change? I mean, in the last 15 minutes of the first half, they really started to look good, like I said. Then in the second half, they come out and like their guns blazing. I mean, they score a goal off a crazy play, gets called back for offside. I mean, that ball started with Dallo all the way down. We're talking Eriksson, Johnny Evans, Eriksson, Rashford. It goes up. Bruno sends it like Højlund sends it to Bruno. And it was a crazy play.
How frustrating it is seeing that. Like when you've been up and down and pretty dog shit at times this year, and then you go and see them pull that out of their asses, and then it gets called back. Like, just I feel like even if they scored that, I'd be more pissed off that happened and be like, where has this been? Because it's like they have the quality and they're not doing it.
So I can answer that question for you. So a part of the problem that sometimes we have is Eriksson was out for a while, and so like I just mentioned about McTominay, how he's really bad in build-up. Eriksson made passes backwards and like actually played a strategic pass and didn't like just kick it away hard to Dallo or hard to Evans or hard to Onana, right? So Eriksson gives the play an actual chance by even him being on the pitch. I thought he made a super big impact the whole game because like he just keeps the ball so well and like having that experience, he knows where to pass the ball. He's not trying to score goals and he's not pushed up the field all the way. So I mean, it got called back for offside, which frustrates me because they were offside about 45 times in the first half. So I know we were texting about it in the group chat, and I was just like, Rashford lived offside in the first half, and Garnacho too. So like it was just embarrassing to see. So and then Digne gets hurt, and they put in Mourinho, and they start talking him up, and then Garnacho scores. So the goal, I mean, what a great goal. I like the first goal better, but I'll take this one all day. Little square across, nice little tap in. So I wasn't too optimistic when they scored that one because we concede a lot after we score the first time. So they when they went down the field and almost had a pretty big chance and they got a nice block on it. So that was pretty relieving. And then they were playing good. They were really playing good. I mean, Bruno was playing out of his shell for not having a goal or an assist. He was all over the field, which that's great. What I like to see from him. He was incredible. And Johnny Evans, I mean, since we got him on a free, just to have him, hasn't put one foot wrong. I mean, we're talking this guy's like 40 years old. It's basically, so it's just crazy to see him playing like that. Garnacho goes and scores the second goal. Then I really think wow, we could actually go and win this thing. And when they make the subs, I was a little scared about Diaby and Zaniolo because Zaniolo got a goal, in stoppage time to tie the other day. And I was a little nervous, but they took Bailey and Ramsey off, who created a lot of chances in the first half. So moving forward with that, I mean, they sub on McTominay, sub off Mano. I thought Mano had a good game too. The problem is that people who look at his rating and think that he played like ass. They're going to see 6.8 and be like, yeah, he sucks. He's nothing special. But if you actually watch the kid play, he's all over the place in the center of the park, dude. Like he's going to be good. Like really, really good. He's going to be incredible.
Yeah. Pretty impressive watching him play. I mean, you can tell he's young. He's going to make mistakes, like all that stuff. But no, he's doing well. He's definitely the mold of a player you guys have been missing for a while. I mean, you kind of have it with Casemiro, but he's up and down and kind of like, I don't know, towards like the approaching that I don't really care. I'm not going to put as much effort part of his career. Is like his reputation speaks for himself kind of thing. So it's definitely good to see him come through.
Yeah, I think defensively, Casemiro is bigger, proportionate wise, and I think on the possession side, he lacks a little bit. He's a decent enough passer of the ball, but Mano is the one that really keeps possession. You guys might call me crazy, but I see a lot of Pogba in the way that Mino plays. He's very he opens his arms up. He's very shifty with his body feints. He'll just shift somebody and pass the ball to left back. Just to keep possession. And Pogba used to do that a lot. Obviously not going forward wise for Kabi, but that way. And then Højlund scores his first Premier League goal off a corner. And we haven't scored from a corner, I don't think, all year. So for Højlund to score his first Premier League goal and a 3-2 comeback was just outstanding. I mean, I sound a little sick right now. I was screaming yesterday, woke up, my throat was killing me. So combination of all that together was great. But I mean, I really enjoyed the game. I mean, you can't count us out. I wanted to touch on Mr. Ten Hag. I think he set us up to win in the beginning of the game. I just really didn't think that they defended well at all. And so once they recovered from that and they really started to, put some plays together, I mean, you guys could probably agree, they looked great. I mean, Rashford had his best game probably all season. He was going at defenders like Garnacho was on the right side. So, to have two players like that, Rashford was just flicking the ball over the top, trying to get Højlund involved. And, Anzi doesn't do that on the right side. Garnacho was trying to get Højlund involved from the right side this game. So it was really interesting to see how good they played, and I'm really excited for the next couple of games to come.
Yeah, I don't have a stake in a Premier League club per se, but if I had to pick one, I might lean United's way just from a historical point of view. I like the club, so I don't want to sit here and burst the bubble, obviously, because we get a win, you get 3 points, but it's interesting because we looked at the first half and we thought it was just going to be another United display of just getting thrashed by a good club, just not playing well. Obviously, they make the comeback, and we talked a lot about, is Ten Hag out? Is he losing his job? Did he just save his job? And I think it's important as a club for United to realize that, yeah, they just make this comeback and win, and yeah, there was good moments and like flashes of what they can do, but I think it's important to realize that there were so many opportunities that this game could have been not even a struggle from the first half. It could have been 5-2 United's way at one point, because you see Bruno doing what Bruno does, those insane 0.1% chance balls that he plays through the defense. It sends Rashford through at one play. Rashford does well to beat a player, but then does an awful left-footed shot that flies 8 feet wide of the net when he himself is only 4 feet wide of the net. He just completely shanks it. And
yeah, he scuffed it.
You just don't have someone who can score goals. But yeah, okay, Garnacho scores too, but it's not like he consistently scores goals. And I think there's still a lot of problems that need to be ironed out. And I don't want United to think this sort of victory papers the cracks. You know what I mean? There's still a lot to be done. And I still personally, granted, he gets the comeback here. I just don't think Ten Hag is the one for the job. I'm not one to constantly fire a manager. I agree with you guys when we typically say that a manager should be trusted, but I just don't think he's the guy for the job per se. No, and I was almost kind of hoping United would lose, but I don't know.
But I think in this situation, I don't think you can't fire him. You're stuck with him no matter what. They're in this situation because they've gone through countless managers. They have a bunch of players left over from other managers' ideas. No matter what, unless they're relegation candidates, they have to back them no matter what. You have to go there. I mean, you saw them play. They played well. This is what they can do. They have the players. They have the system. They can perform. They can do well. But I mean, if you look at the beginning of that game, that's not on the manager. Those players were not ready to play. They were awful to start. Yeah. And that second goal, I think it was off the corner. They whip in a corner, and Longley's free, completely free. He bends from the penalty spot to the back corner of the 6 and head that place. The entire Manchester United defense and that backs probably moved less combined than just that man. And they just did not move. They froze, and they just let them score this. I mean, it's not being manager for players which ball watching. So it's I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough situation. But
the set piece is a little unlucky though, because I touched on it earlier. I mean, they set it up to pick Mano, his Langley's marker, on purpose. So I don't know if you saw Emery celebrating. Yeah, but they were celebrating with the set piece manager. So if 3 people are designated to be on the line, nobody's going to see Mano fall down after getting picked and then pick up Langley, because by the time they do that, Donker's already scored. Yeah, so I think it was a perfect set piece. We've always been bad from corners, but yeah, it does look lazy because there's 3 people on the line. But I mean, there's nothing you can really do if you get picked. I think that the set piece manager put a great set piece in. I mean, it was literally perfect.
It was a great set piece. So. It's the effort that's the issue for me, where it's just like players aren't putting in the effort, and it's just like,
yeah, I can agree with that.
You guys gotta figure it out.
I wanted to talk to Nate's point about Garnacho. So, just to let you know, Garnacho's 19 years old, and this is his second season actually playing. So I'm just saying, these players, we have to give them a chance. I don't believe that. I think sacking the manager would be too early. I mean, look where he got us last year. On top of all the injuries that we've had this year, I mean, we don't have our starting center back. We don't have a lot of players. And now that they're starting to come back, we're playing better football for a reason, I think. So, Rashford, I mean, what's he supposed to do if Rashford can't find his form? Last year, he'll put up 30 goal contributions. This year, he can't even scrap 5. He can't do anything about that if he's playing bad in the same position that he was last year. So, to Jay's point, I think it would be dumb to sack him. I think that they should stick out with him, at least for a little bit longer to the end of the season. See how we finish and see how the board of directors goes with the whole transfer process and all that. Because I can agree he's made some bad signings. I don't think Anthony should ever play another game for the club at this point. I mean, after Garnacho starting right wing, putting up 2 goals, man of the match performance, how do you not play him there again? This should be the exact same lineup again in the next game, except maybe minus. You could swap Dalot and Shaw around, but I'm pretty sure Shaw picked up a knock anyway. So. I think the team is fine. I think that, it's going to be good to see, and I think we should. I'm a back the manager type of guy. I didn't want really any of the managers to go, but, I would have kept Mourinho with the skin of my teeth if I had to. So I'm glad to see that, they put in a good performance for the manager, and maybe it is saving his job. But, I think that we got a lot of positives out of this. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I agree. I think the performance certainly proves that Erik Ten Haag has certainly not lost the dressing room, and the way they came out of this and the second half certainly shows that. I mean, I don't think a team that doesn't back their manager, I don't think you come out and play like that, regardless of what team you play for and what it means to play for the shirt. I think it was impressive, in my opinion, actually, to see the turnaround that Ten Hag could produce from them, actually, because I gotta be honest, I'm kind of a Ten Hag hater. I'm not the biggest fan of him. I don't think, like Jay said, I don't think he's the man for the job either. So, personally, I would have liked to see him get sacked, maybe. But
you wanted him sacked at halftime. Make sure we bring that up too.
Yeah, I did say that.
Everybody said John Luca said that he wanted Ten Hag sacked at halftime, and they come back and put in a 3-2 comeback against Aston Villa.
I did say that, but that's been the running joke. What I say, I always say that every time they play bad, I say sack them at halftime.
I still back them.
Yeah. Anyways,
yeah.
I was very impressed with them in the second half. I thought they were piss poor in the first half, and maybe the last 10-15 minutes of the first half they started turning up a little bit, and then the second half they came out firing. And I wanted to shout out Højlund and Kabi, because Højlund obviously getting his first goal in the Premier League it's huge for him, and I think that'll show you that he's not just a price tag, and he's not a bad player, because that was an instinct finish. That wasn't a lucky goal. He needed to know how to finish that goal, and he certainly did. So good for him. It's certainly good for the confidence, and I think you saw that in his emotion when he scored. I mean, he basically turned as red as his shirt. So
he cried. I think he cried. Literally, I think he was tearing up. So,
and touching what you said about Kabi, I think he comes from. He kind of reminds me of a Serie A midfielder in a way, that the way that he controls the game and the way that he slows the ball down when he has it, he's so calm, and I think that's the thing that strikes me most about the way he plays. When he gets the ball, there could be 3 guys on his ass. He doesn't care. He's gonna take his time and figure out the right ball to play. And most of the time, for a kid his age, he's been figuring out. He's been making the right play. So I think it'll be pretty cool to see where he goes from here.
It's funny that you said Serie A too, because I mentioned Pogba, and you remember what Pogba was doing at Juve. So kind of like, I'm telling you, it looks like
he reminds me a lot of like I see like a Verratti in his game, a little bit of a Jorginho, a little bit of Pogba, like you said, like a lot of combinations of the way they play and the way they control the game and really slow down play. I think that's exactly like Jay said. It's exactly the type of play that Manchester United's been lacking. So
yeah. But
I wanted to touch upon the stat too. Sorry to interrupt. I don't know if you guys saw during the game. They said Aston Villa was the only team to not lose points from a winning position in a game, and United's never lost a home game in Boxing Day. So you had two basically unbeaten records and history won. So go ahead, Jay. Just wanted to get that in there before I forgot.
Yeah, just to wrap up the Man U talk. This isn't the first time that they've gone and had a really good result, a good performance, a good comeback under Ten Haag. So they've still gone back to their old ways after these. So we'll see what happens going forward. But I'm probably a little bit more optimistic than most, but definitely cautiously.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I still stand by. I just don't think he's the man to do it. I don't mean that as saying that he needs to get sacked per se. I just don't think if United will return to glory, he is not going to be the one at the helm. That is how I feel.
Yeah.
He won't be the one that's there. They don't.
Yep.
I do agree that we shouldn't just start throwing around managers, but again, I just don't. Even with like, would you guys finish second or third last year? Last year, the Premier League was pretty junk. Most of the clubs, even some of the smaller clubs that are doing well this year, weren't doing well last year. And it was basically a 2-horse race, and you guys finished third by a good margin. So I don't think, not again, and not to just try to like shit on United. I say that as in I don't think that's like a huge achievement under Ten Hag's belt. I think United should have got someone. I think like Tottenham have gotten, and we'll get to Tottenham and how they performed this weekend. But I think like I always butcher his name. But I think Ange is doing a great job over there, and I think that like an English, like a Premier League guy who's like strong in the locker room, who plays direct, like good forward thinking football, and like I don't know. I just don't think Ten Hag is the guy, and I think we'll see United continue to fail over time. But they got the points this weekend and they played well, so we'll see. Since I mentioned Tottenham, we'll go to Tottenham, who won, I believe, both their games this weekend, if I'm not crazy.
Yeah, 3 wins in a row, actually.
Yeah,
they play tomorrow.
One game this weekend. They play tomorrow. Yeah, 3 wins in a row. Beating Everton, who I mentioned earlier, not being that good time, on a great stretch of games. Tottenham looked the real deal. They fell a little bit for a little while, but sitting 5th, only 1 point behind City, both with a game at hand to catch up to league leaders. How do we feel about Tottenham?
I mean, they played Nottingham Forest and Everton, so I mean, those are games that they should be expected to win. I mean, they beat Newcastle 4-1. That was probably the best victory that they've had because I mean, they go lose West Ham 2-1, and then they tie City, lose Villa, lose Wolves, lose Chelsea. So I mean, they like you said, they struggled for a little bit, but I mean, they're just gonna Tottenham, you know. I mean, we'll see if they can really pull it together, but you know, game against Everton was good. You know, Richarlison scoring against his former club, if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, pretty cool to see. Son getting a goal as well, having good form, and I'm sure G has something to say about Vicario because he won man of the match. So, I'll turn it to him.
Yeah, for me, other than Vicario, before I go to him, Richarlison made me laugh in this game. I think he makes me laugh every time I watch him play if he does something stupid. But when he scored, I don't know if you guys caught this, but he celebrated and then he put his hands up and then he was like, "Oh no, I'm not going to celebrate." And I was like, "What is this guy doing? Like, if you're not going to celebrate against your former club, don't celebrate. But if you are going to celebrate. Like, just pick one." But I feel like he's always doing some random shit, and I can never really understand what the guy's going through. So. I don't know. He's just one of those randoms, but I love watching him play. He makes me laugh. So, but yeah, Vicario, I think for me, he's the best goalkeeper this season in the Premier League. I think that's an outside shout. I think most people would probably say it's Alisson and Ederson and all the big names. But for me, I think it's Vicario. If you watch him play and if you watch the way Tottenham play, he's perfect for them. I mean, he's not afraid to use his feet and play out from the back. And in terms of shot stopping, he's one of the best. I mean, he makes some unbelievable saves every game, and he did it again for Tottenham against Everton. He made some outrageous saves. So, I mean, that's Italy's third choice goalie, which is just absolutely absurd to me. And I think he's fucking unreal. And I mean, if you look who he's against in that game, it's Jordan Pickford, who's England's so-called number one, and I absolutely do not rate him. So we'll see. I mean, I think he's going to keep going and keep doing better from here, in my opinion. I think Guillermo Vicario is a very, very good goalkeeper, and I think Tottenham might just be a stepping stone for him. I think he might end up at one of the big boys one day because he really might be just that good.
I was going to ask about him for you.
He certainly has. You can see, like we were talking about Onana with the temperament and emotion thing. You can see Vicario is the polar opposite. Like, he is so level-headed, so calm. He doesn't like go crazy, but yeah, he's a very good keeper. I've been watching him for a while, obviously since he was coming from Serie A, but yeah, he's definitely world class in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, with
so you think they should give him the? You think they should give him the sticks for Italy, or you think? You think he's still with the run of form that he's having? You think he's playing better than Donnarumma, or what?
Yeah, actually, if we're gonna talk about form, and if we're gonna talk about the way that Spalletti might want us to play, yeah, actually, it wouldn't be a crazy shout to see Vicario take the number one spot off Donnarumma, because we all know he is certainly not good with his feet, but at the same time, he's a freak of nature, Donnarumma, when it comes to shot stopping. So yeah, kind of hard to take him out.
Didn't mean to cut you off there. I just wanted to get that question in while we were on with Vicario.
No, yeah. I'm just Tottenham is like, this isn't really a great squad if we compare to their recent seasons. Like, they've always been pretty good, having a good squad, but I don't know, something's just different about the way they're playing. It seems more impressive. They had that rough run they had where we mentioned earlier, where they kind of lost a bunch of games in a row, but they started off well and then they lost Madison. And now, even without him, they're still doing well. Kulusevski stepped up. Son's been unreal without Harry Kane. I don't think anybody really expected him to be this good. I mean, we knew he'd be good, but to basically be carrying the whole team on his back, it's pretty impressive. But no, it's definitely more encouraging. I don't think it's the same old, like, Spurs are going to crap themselves and they're going to find a way to lose games. It's just, I don't know, just something feels different. But this team's just not good enough to really compete yet. So I think if they can bring in some more solid transfers, more talent, they could probably be competing back again pretty quickly.
Yeah, and another one of those guys who you didn't mention that they brought in this summer is James Maddison, and he's been absolutely on smoke for them this season. I think he's another one, kind of like James Ward-Prowse. I think he's definitely more rated than James Ward-Prowse. I mean, he's made his way into the England setup and whatnot, but he's a baller, and he definitely was. He was a big fish in a small pond being at Leicester, and he's right where he should be, being at Tottenham, and I like seeing him there because he's a player that deserves to have quality around him, like Heung-min Son and other players like that can really finish and do things with the chances that he creates. So it's good to see him there and doing some things and really fitting in with Ange Ball.
They're gonna be screwed because Romero's hurt now for a month, so they're gonna have Davies and Dyer playing center back for a month
When did Van de Ven come back?
Well, for a couple weeks until Van de Ven comes back. So Van de Ven's in training, but he's not fully fit, obviously, because coming off a hamstring injury is big. So it's gonna give him the rest that he needs. But they're gonna be in trouble without Cuti Romero. So it's gonna be interesting to see how Ange kind of puts the team out. Because I mean, you're talking about two starting center backs that are basically out right now, and they have their backups in who are not good. Like, Derek Dyer is not a good player.
Neither of them are real center backs.
And Davies was a left back who was slow, and they made him play center back. So eventually, and that's where he's been now. So I mean, it's going to be pretty crazy to see, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said, Jay, that historically this team isn't as good as teams they had in the past because they're not the only top 6 team that doesn't have as good of a squad and need results. And like I said, Ange is the guy to bring results, clearly, from a team that's not as good, and not Ten Haag, but it's okay. Aston Villa, a team that obviously we were just mentioning for a little bit, almost beat United, but have been on a really good streak.
Till
Lose that
now.
streak. Lose that streak, yeah, obviously on a loss and a draw to Sheffield, who are clearly going straight back down. So honestly, hitting that bump in the road, but halfway through the season to sit third, after 19 games for them is pretty good. So I don't think there's much to complain about for them. I think a rest is needed, and they'll get that in the next week, and maybe some fresh legs in January. But I think they'll stick with it. I think they'll be.
I think for me, for Villa, personally, I think looking at where they are, like realistically, I think we all kind of maybe expect that they're not going to have the firepower to keep going in the fight with the other three, with Liverpool, Arsenal, and Man City. So I think a patch of form like this, where they're dropping points in games, especially like the one against Sheffield, where they really should not be tying in a game like that. So, especially if you want to be a team that's fighting for a championship, I just think that that's just the proof is in the pudding there. That they're not there yet with the other three, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, this was their opportunity to really make a statement with their last couple of games. If they could have gotten 4 points out of it instead of one, they're up at the top of the table
They'd be
right now.
top of the league. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I mean, we had talked about this a few podcasts back when we were kind of talking about Leverkusen and Villa to see if they really could prove that they belong. And with Villa, it looks like they're kind of struggling to kind of perform and kind of take control of it. I mean, granted, third place for Villa, they'll be ecstatic. But I think they probably do have the capability to really compete this year. But it just seems like the mentality and the experience is really going against them right now. And they had the chance to prove it, and it didn't look like they could.
Yeah, I mean, 4 losses at the new year is, if you look at Liverpool's got 1, Arsenal's got 2, City's got 3. I mean, they have the most out of the top 4. So, I mean, that's a game. They're up 2-0. They blow that lead. They barely win against Brentford, too. Yep. I mean, they scored 2 second-half goals, and then they tie Sheffield. So, that's a terrible run. I mean, yes, a win is still great, but, I mean, for Brentford, we just talked about them losing 4 in a row, and they're playing really bad. So if Villa can barely scrap 2 goals, I mean, I think they're going to take. I think this win from us takes the wind out of their sails a little bit, and I think it's really going to be. I think it was a reality check for them because they really did not play better than us at all in that game. We were all over them. They could not even. They barely moved the ball in the second half effectively to create a chance. So I think, like what we said about Leverkusen and Villa, I really don't think they're going to be challenging for the title. We'll see if that remains true, but yeah, that's where I stand on them.
I mean, I think that could potentially be a bit harsh because these 2 games this weekend was the first time they dropped points aside from
since November
5th, aside from 1 tie away to Bournemouth. Every other game they've won, and a couple of them won obviously comfortably. So I think it's, credit to them too. They're also topping their group in Europa League. So sitting third in the Premier League, sitting first in your group in the Europa League, and still competing in Europe, is, I think that's a lot to be.
It's a huge accomplishment.
Huge accomplishment for a club their size. You know what I mean? And the size as in they're not one of the top 6. I think they just need some, like I said, some fresh legs in January. I think we should revisit this conversation in a couple weeks' time if they make some transfers this January, and I think we could have a whole different conversation completely.
I think they're in the fight for the top 4, but I think if I was a Villa fan, I would be kicking myself for the way that they are not.
Oh yeah, I mean
top of the table right now because they shouldn't be tying. They should be taking all 3 points against Sheffield. I mean, they're lucky that they didn't lose. Realistically, they scored in the 97th minute, the 96th minute, something like that. They really should have lost.
They go and beat Arsenal 1-0.
So lose, like you said, Pat, to blow a 2-goal lead in a game that they were controlling for the first half. Let's be real here. We can summarize. So to go and blow that, and now you're third when you should be first. I would be pissed. I would be livid, dude. I would not be happy at all.
It's one thing if these 2 games were the Arsenal and City games, but they ended up winning those 2 games, so they're competing against the top teams but it seems like they're kind of, I don't know if it's a little bit complacency or something, but they don't have that it factor to kind of be at the top and take control. So, I mean, again, we're kind of, this is being a little bit subjective here, but they should absolutely be ecstatic to be third place, whatever. But there's definitely some missed opportunities that they could have taken advantage of to kind of prove themselves as the big boys.
Yeah, I mean, these are the games that really cost positions in the table. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, that's a very general statement to say, but I mean, we're talking about a draw to Sheffield, who's bottom, and then we're talking about a loss at their up 2-0. I mean, that's 1 point out of a projected basically 6. So, I mean, these are positions that we're going to come back in April and say, whoa, you know, if they had those extra 5 points, it would be crazy. Even if they had an extra 3 points, where would they be? So we can revisit the conversation. I'm just giving my my early take, really.
Yeah, I think an interesting thing too about that Sheffield game is if you look at who scored against them, it's the guy they sold, Cameron Archer, of all people. Someone who could probably be helping this Villa team with a couple extra goals here and there if they hadn't sold him, comes to bite them in the ass. So I think it was pretty funny to see that happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. It'll be an interesting conversation. I think another team that's also on a bit of a slump, even though, I mean, they played Arsenal the last time out before the weekend, and then they tied Crystal Palace. Brighton, obviously, just feeling that European fatigue like Villa, and hopefully they can see something when they play again tomorrow. But the teams that closed out are Boxing Day, which really played earlier today on the Wednesday, was City, who they ended up winning today, but they wasn't looking too comfortable at first.
Yeah, they
first half.
They went down early to Everton, but then they pretty much did what they've been doing all season. They dominate the game, they control it, but they looked a bit more refreshed, and they kind of got that killer instinct that we kind of said they were lacking in the last few podcasts, where they were kind of just ruthless in scoring goals and peppering the Everton defense. But again, Gianluca's favorite keeper makes a great play to kind of gift them another goal to kind of seal the game. So, but definitely more of an expected performance from City than compared to what they've been providing as of late.
Yeah, Phil Foden that guy has a rocket in his boot, dude. He scored one, but then he had another one.
Off the post.
Oh my god! Like he hits him like.
Yo, he hits him. Well, I just want to say about Pickford. This is another thing that pisses me off, bro. This guy, I don't know what it is about him, but it's like he thinks nobody's got the audacity to shoot at him from outside of 20 yards. He's never ready, bro. I've never seen a goalie who is never fucking prepared like he is. Like, don't get me wrong. Nobody's saving that shot that Foden took. But at the same time, if you watch Pickford, bro, he's not even set. I think he's looking at the crowd like I don't know what the fuck he's doing. But he's certainly not ready at all for anybody to shoot whenever they're around the penalty area. And it just blows my mind that he's English.
I was never a fan of him either. I
can't stand him. I can't stand him. I cannot stand him. Yeah, good. He can kick the ball 80 yards down the field and drop it on a dime. But he's not a fucking goalkeeper. He's not. And it blows my mind that he's a national number one.
He'd be a good center back, probably.
Probably. He should be playing up top. He shouldn't be in net.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bernardo Silva, goal and assist. Little Portuguese boy over there.
I think they gave the man of the match to Foden, but I mean,
interesting.
I thought Bernardo was. I mean, I know he got a garbage time goal, but I still thought he played better. That's my opinion, but I'm not the highest Foden ranker.
Bernardo Silva. So in the Portuguese newspapers, they've kind of trying to push an agenda that he's surpassed David Silva as being the best Silva for City. Ooh. How do you guys feel about that?
That's a little crazy, I think.
I think they played very similarly, though.
Yeah, and I think Bernardo's playing in a better team where he probably won't shine as much as David Silva did. But I don't know if I'd go that far, and I'm the biggest Bernardo Silva fanboy.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting it's a conversation. I think you have to look at it from two perspectives, from an individual and what they've achieved, because you can't argue. Obviously, City have finally hit their golden peak where they're winning multiple Premier Leagues, they're winning UCLs, and Bernardo Silva's in the team doing that. So at that point of view, it's like, yeah, okay, he's the Silva that's won more trophies, won more silverware, but I think in terms of like icon status at City, no, I mean David Silva's basically got his blood on the walls over there.
He's got a statue already, doesn't he?
I don't know.
I think he's already got a statue on the ground.
But yeah,
I mean, for me, in terms of the eye test alone, these two players passed with flying colors. I mean, they were both one of my favorite players to watch. But yeah, I think it's absolutely outrageous to say that Bernardo Silva is a better player than David Silva.
By the way,
Bernardo Silva is, because I am one of the biggest Bernardo Silva admirers, and I'm not afraid to admit that because he's Portuguese. I love watching that guy play. He's so good. I mean, his ability to control the ball and to run and just do what he does is just. It's just so elegant to me. I think I could just watch it all day. And David Silva he was a great player doing that in his own right, but I think David Silva had a little bit more of a pass that Bernardo Silva doesn't have.
Yep. I think it'd be a better conversation to say when they're said and done. Nate said, they're starting to win a lot. And Nate, I know you said champions. I know you said UCLs, but they only have one. Just to let you know. I hate City, so I gotta
finals.
Yeah, dig into them a little bit. But it doesn't matter. You didn't win. That's what I say. I do take Bernardo. I do take David Silva though. I think he was just levels. I mean, you're talking about a World Cup winner there, who was actually like an actual piece of the team. So,
if we're talking contributions, I think the gap is definitely not just like overall talent and play and all that. I think actual contribution to City, the gap is closing by each season that goes by. I think Bernardo Silva is just proving. I mean,
Bernardo Silva is PFA Player of the Year. He was a PFA Player of the Year.
Yeah,
practically.
Yeah, I think the conversation would be interesting. Because I know if we looked at numbers now, I think there'd still be a gap. But it would be interesting to how, like in a different universe where Man City doesn't have KDB, right? Because KDB is obviously the focal point in the midfield where the numbers come from in terms of assists and goals. And then you could argue, blah, 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 would City still be City without KDB? But if Bernardo Silva gets to be the more key figure in the midfield consistently, season after season, then I think... And obviously, if he fulfilled his potential, blah, 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 then I think there's more of a conversation of like, oh wow, is Bernardo Silva the more significant Silva? But that's all a bunch of ifs, ands, and maybes. So obviously, we can.
I really do think he's pivotal though. Like honestly, sure. He's so much more. So he stays way more healthy than KDB, and they win without KD. Like they win without KDB. I want to see them play without Bernardo Silva for a chunk of time and see how they can manage, because I really do think he's. I think the two most important players in their team are Bernardo Silva and Rodri.
Mm-hmm.
So, for them to be missing Rodri, I mean, they're still playing good.
I don't think Bernardo gets enough credit. I think the media tends to shine a light on a different player all the time rather than him. The only time he got that credit was that other season that KDB was out for some time, and then he really got the show. But other than that, I feel like his spotlight's always stolen.
Oh, I'm sorry, they're not missing Rodri. I thought they were missing him when he got injured in the Club World Cup, but I was mistaken. So without KDB, I mean, they're still putting up the numbers. So I would like to, like I said, I'd like to see if Bernardo can play without. I don't know if they'd have the same creative and possession type of mentality, because I mean, who would you put out there?
Right.
You can't really. I mean, who are you going to put out there realistically? Like Oscar Bob? Yeah. Or like Rico Lewis, like who are you gonna play there? So it just seems like he's like you could replace KDB with Foden. I mean, look at what Foden did today, right? I mean, he's getting the goals, creating some chances. It's just, I do think the gap is closing, though. I agree with what you guys are saying. I like that conversation a lot, and it'll be interesting to see when their careers are finished what we can agree and disagree on.
Yeah. Last club to touch on. Our conversations of Chelsea have been back and forth week in, week out because they're just incredibly inconsistent. So our opinions of them have to be inconsistent because they just don't know when they want to be good and when they want to be crap. But they do get the win on their second game this weekend. We mentioned their game against Wolves earlier, but playing Crystal Palace, who is a so-so team this season. A late win on a penalty, so it wasn't anything pretty. It's just interesting. I like I look at this Chelsea lineup, and if you like, granted, if I knew less about football and stuff, like if I was just your average run-of-the-mill FIFA player who just like knows a little bit, and you showed me this lineup, I'm not telling you this is Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? Like Chelsea, that's a top 6 Prem team. I expect to see names on this list. It's nice to see Nkunku playing and stuff like that, returning from injury and stuff. But like, if you just look at this, like, who are you looking on that? And that's like, oh yeah, that's a Chelsea player. Where's the, you know what I mean? Like the John Terrys. Where's the Lamps? Where's the like Ivanovic? Like, you know what I mean? Like, where are those players that we'd recognize on any given team sheet and be like, oh, that's a Chelsea player? You know what I mean? If I watched any given national team, I probably wouldn't even know they played for Chelsea.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll give them a little bit of credit for this one. I mean, granted, I'd probably consider Palace this year as possible relegation candidates. I think they're really struggling this year. But I'll give some credit to Chelsea because they had a lot of players out. I mean, they've got a ton of injuries, which again, not the biggest excuse considering how much money they've spent. They had suspensions with Sterling and Cole Palmer, sorry. So for them to actually go ahead and put in a performance and get a result in a late winner, I'll definitely give them some credit for that. That's definitely something they should be doing a little bit more often. But no, solid performance from them, and we'll see if they can turn this into some form. Because I mean, it looks like they're just winning every other game. It's like we'll see what Chelsea shows up, but I think that should be a confidence boost for them, and they'll see if they can build off of it.
Yeah, I mean, they barely scrapped this one away, too. I mean, they controlled the entire game, and I mean, it's 4 big chances missed. I watched a little bit of the game, and I mean, they just couldn't score. But Jason, to your point, I mean, they have a lot of injuries, and like them buying all these players over these years, like, have really benefited them because now they have players when they're out, they could just toss some players in. Like, I'll be honest, I never heard of this Matson guy that they played on the wing. I don't even know where the heck they got him from, but if Ange was here, I would rub in his face about Conor Gallagher because I think he's actually playing pretty good. And Ange said that he does not like Conor Gallagher and he thought he sucked.
I don't either.
So, yeah, that's fine, no problem. When he played actually at Palace last season and a half ago or so, I fancied him, and I think now he's starting to come into that form again with a little bit of these injuries. So, I mean, Disasi gets to play. I think Malo Gusto has been coming into his own as well with Reece James out, so it's going to be cool to see. But I mean, they barely scrapped this game away. They deserve to win on paper, but if I was a Chelsea fan, I would be disgusted with a 2-1 scoreline with a penalty to save myself. Just embarrassing performance.
If we're being honest, there's 3, maybe 4 players that start in a fully healthy team that played in this game. So I mean, it's not really the Chelsea squad they're anticipating on playing. So I mean, put them a little bit of slack, but they probably should be doing better.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think watching Chelsea is just weird. I mean, they don't really do anything exciting. They make a lot of stupid mistakes. I mean, it was weird. Even if you look at their lineup today, like they go with an extremely young lineup, an extremely inexperienced lineup too. And I mean, I said it earlier. It's good to see that Nkunku's making an impact and doing something. I mean, they spent a lot of money on him, and they haven't even been able to use him until now. And that's been the case with a couple of guys. I mean, Romeo Lavia is another one that really hasn't made an impact at all since coming in. And like he came into the game today, and I honestly forgot he was even there. I forgot he's one of the players they signed just because they brought so many people in, and there's been so much changeover with them. But I mean, I feel like it's the same old story with them like it was last season. They're just going to be meandering around 10th, 11th place again, and they're going to be well outside of Europe. They're not going to be competing in Europe next season like this season, and it's just going to be another story of rebuilding. I it's really hard to see where Poch goes from here. It really is for me.
Yeah, but you mentioned that no Europe. Could be a blessing for them next year. I think that if they can get depending how the rest of the season goes, if they can get some health in, some consistency in the lineup, and some decent play, then this should be a fairly good top 4 contender, if not title contender next year. I mean, their squad's not good enough, but if they can get some form going and get some consistency,
you could make
can
that
surprise
argument.
Some people next year.
You could make that argument for this season too, though. I mean, not being in Europe is a reason they should be playing better, in my opinion.
Given the injuries, maybe not. But
yeah, I mean, I think I think Pochettino is going to be someone that I think Chelsea should have faith in, because I think he's the kind of manager that can bring you up the table from a rough poor form. I think we saw that with Tottenham. He's one of those that I think can get you to a place like towards the top of the mountain, but he can't get you over it. We obviously never saw Tottenham win any trophies. And I think he's that kind of guy, and I think he can bring Chelsea up back towards glory, but then he'll have to get replaced if they want to finish with some silverware. And I will be critical of my own statement and go off what G said, because they do have a really young squad. Actually, Nkunku is the oldest one at 26, followed by Petrovic at 24, and everybody else is 22 and under, which is insane, because that is extreme youth. That's not even like just saying young. That's like literally academy players, which I love a young team, and they have a lot of like young guys, up and coming guys that are coming from like PSV, like Madueke came off the bench and scored. So it's interesting to see how they will grow and mature. But yeah, I don't know. I think you say injuries, but even like you look at who they have injured, it's like Chalaba, trash. Like Reece James is not that good. Cucurella, not that good. Never came back from form after leaving Brighton. I don't think he's that good.
Stop.
Better than what they have.
I can't let you do that.
And
James captain's not playing. Reece James has been fantastic when he plays.
Yeah, healthy. He starts for England. So I mean,
it's a bookable
effect. Played really good until Garnacho spun him and hurt his ankle.
Yeah, I mean,
he was playing good like 3 games in a row.
Fofana was bought to be their starting center back. I don't think he's played a Premier League game for them yet.
He also snapped his leg in half, Fofana. So
and then tore an ACL. So I mean,
they're missing Enzo. They're missing their starting goalkeeper. Right. I mean, Thiago Silva's not playing. So I mean, I think I want to be critical of you, Nate, and put you in a hot seat, because I think you talk about Poch and you think that he can bring them to the promised land. Even with all these injuries, they're still playing bad, but yet when we have these injuries, you want to call for Ten Hag's head. So I just think that it's a little unfair.
That's not the same situation.
I don't think it's the same situation at all.
I don't know.
They go and buy Mudryk for 110 million, and he doesn't do anything, and he finally starts to score. That's great. I'm glad. It's just I just think that when they come back from their injury, I mean, the whole team hasn't played together since the beginning of the year. I mean, they have Chilwell out, Enzo, Cucurella. They have Reece out. They have Fofana and Sanchez out. I think when those players really come in, I think they're gonna really threaten. Because you have Nkunku. Once he starts, this is only his 3rd appearance. Once he starts to really heat up in the center of that park, I think that they're going to be a tough team, because I really do like Pochettino as a coach, and I think that they're going to be really good. Just the problem is all these injuries. I mean, the people they're bringing off the bench are just not good enough. I hate Broja. I think he is garbage. He stinks. I think Nicholas Jackson's bad too, but I mean, he's been scoring, playing good. I would like to see Romeo Lavia play more, and I wonder why Thiago Silva's on the bench. I know that he had a couple of mistakes in the season, which is and he's old. Very out of pocket for him. I think he's finally losing it, but I don't know. I think the injuries are a big part, and I'd defend him like I'll defend Ten Hag, because I've seen people on Twitter calling for his head. Sorry, people on X calling for his head, and I agree. I think it's the same thing with Ten Hag. I mean, all the defensive mistakes come from somewhere. So if they had their starting line, I think that would be avoiding that.
I'd like to defend myself, because I want you to sit here and look at that Chelsea lineup and tell me which one of those players in each position would you put in your injured Man United lineup. Not one.
This is our first game back with actual the people back from injury.
Go back a lineup. Go back a game week. There's just none of these
Yeah.
players that Pochettino has to
All right,
play.
got you.
Listen, and don't get me wrong. I understand United has their injury problems. I had a whole spiel about it, how they can't get the same center back pairing and defensive lineup in front of Onana. I told you that was part of the problem.
11 different ones.
But at the same time, none of these Chelsea players, maybe one. You said you rate Conor Gallagher. Maybe you like him over McTominay. You probably actually would totally say that. Caicedo, maybe. But, like, they're not going in those quote-unquote backup United players, I don't think, in my opinion. I think United have injury problems. Personally, it's just my thing is Pochettino has proof in the Premier League that he can get it done, have great seasons. And Ten Hag knows how to have a great season with Ajax in a league that they dominate anyway. I don't know.
Respect.
You know what I mean?
I think third place getting Europe is pretty good accomplishment for first season in the Prem with the team. I mean, you got to understand too. Our team is really not outstanding. Like we have Johnny Evans and Kumbwala playing. I'd rather have the two center backs from Chelsea playing. I'd rather have Badiashile and Disasi playing center back instead of Johnny Evans and the other guy, Kumbwala. So I would have him there. Absolutely, I would take those two.
Evans is,
and I would take Caicedo or Gallagher over McTominay at CDM any day of the week too. So he's only playing. McTominay only started playing because we have the injuries out. So it's not many players, but they make a big difference because, like you saw, they benched McTominay. Like I was talking about, Ericsson's link-up play, and he was injured. Varane was out. Kumbwala had to played like shit. So just to defend myself there, but I do agree with you. I think I need to see Ten Hag prove himself a little bit more. And yeah, we've seen Pochettino get close, but he was coaching the choke-ridden club. So we'll see if he can get it done with Chelsea. I think they should back him, to go back to your earlier point. So it'll be interesting to see.
Right. And I think that about rounds it up. This will be the moment in the podcast that we hand over the floor, the lead microphone, to G, who will run us through the handful of games we had in the Serie A this weekend that closed out the new year, the old year, I should say.
Yeah, so last couple of days before Christmas, we had the last round of Serie A. It was round 17. So that opened up on Friday. And we saw Lazio play the first game. They played against Empoli, who've been pretty poor this season. I mean, Empoli's not really the greatest side. They probably have about one player I look for in their team, which is Baldanzi, and that's about it. Maldini's son plays for them. Other than that, I mean, the only thing to say about Lazio is that Provedel had a good game for me. I mean, I despise this team, as you know, but yeah, Provedel was fantastic. I think he's another one of those Italian goalkeepers that's very good and up and coming for me. And he showed it in this game. He made some outstanding saves. I mean, there was a couple that he really had no business getting to, and he got the job done. So big ups to him. He's probably the reason Lazio come away with 3 points, because Empoli were probably the better team in this game. I think they made the better chances. I think Lazio were a little lucky. They scored a couple lucky goals, in my opinion. So, yeah, lucky for them. I mean, not much else to say about them other than that, though. The weekend was pretty straightforward, though. I mean, there wasn't really too many big games, especially on Friday. Milan dropped points, which was pretty surprising, especially to who they played. That was Salernitana. Mike Maignan, very, very rare mistake in this game. He let in a howler, in my opinion. I think he should have been all over it. It was an easy one. Kondreva caught him out at the near post on a little dipper from 20 yards out. So, yeah, that really costed Milan. That put them down 2-1, and they really struggled, I thought, throughout this whole game, to be honest. I don't think they played well at all on Friday. And I don't know. Milan's kind of weird for me this season. I mean, I know my brother's the big Milanista here, so he'd really have a lot more to say about it. But for me, I mean, I want to say I expected Milan to be up there with Juve and with Inter fighting, and certainly not 11 points off at this point in the season. But I don't know. I mean, it's weird. It's just, it feels like Pioli he's missing something this season. I'm sure they're definitely missing Tonali a lot. I mean, that's not a type of midfielder that you can replace. So, I don't know. I don't think Leao looks like he's a little bit off to me too this season. He's certainly not firing on all cylinders, in my opinion. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Luka Jovic scored again. I know we talked about him a couple times already. That he's been providing some goals for Milan recently, even though he really did not show up at all in probably the first 10 or 12 games of the season. But he saved a point for Milan in the end in the 90th minute off a nice layoff from Giroud, and that was really it for that on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, on Milan, real quick. For me, with them, I don't think they have much of a squad outside of their starting 11 and maybe a couple players off the bench. So I mean, when you get some injuries, like they lost Magnan for a bit, they lost pretty much everybody in their back line for extended portions of the season. I think when you got to start rotating some of those players, and like you mentioned, you lost Tonali, they were always going to struggle this year. But maybe we could probably expect a little bit more out of them. But yeah, I don't think this squad is built to last an entire season. But I think that starting 11 on paper and maybe a couple bench players would definitely put you in the top 3 comfortably. But yeah, I think these injuries definitely hurt them this year.
Yeah,
100%.
I think you just come back. I think Ange's biggest takeaway when it comes to Milan, he says it over and over again, is them winning too early, the Scudetto. And I just feel like it slumps the progression, and like, because when you achieve essentially what your goal is to achieve, it fucks up all your steps. You know what I mean? You typically have a steps to progress through. You're like, all right, we get to this caliber, and now we get to sign a couple of these caliber players. And when you jump all the way up here, they don't make the same signings like they wanted to. You know what I mean? I feel like we were just mentioning the squad depth. You get a couple injuries, and everything's just all out of whack. You lose Tonali, now you don't have someone who can fill those shoes. And I think it sends that whole transfer embargo into a spiral, and you just can't get a grasp on the team, and it doesn't seem like it's clicking all that well. I will say on the other side of it, though, Candreva just seems to be a man, despite aging. Ainge is like a fine wine because he is always a man for the big occasion. I feel like he always shows up against the biggest teams in Italy and has the game of his life. Goal and assist. I mean, you look at his player ratings, it's 8 pluses, 7.5 pluses every time they play the top Serie A teams. What is that man on?
Yeah, I was gonna comment on him. I mean, that's like 36 years old. I mean, he's goal and assist is just nuts to me. I mean, like Nate was just talking about the match ratings. I mean, he had an assist, and a goal. So like in the last 3 games, he's had 4 contributions. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. Seeing his name pop up on the assist, and I mean, I guess on the score sheet so often now.
It's really actually funny. I mean, as someone who's been watching Serie A my whole life, Antonio Candreva is someone I've always been aware of. I mean, he was at Lazio for a long time. He's always been known as a guy who scores absolute fucking worldies. I mean, it seems like every year he scores at least one Puskás fucking contender. And so, since he's gotten older now, I mean, he's not the player he used to be. So he's moved further up the pitch. He was a midfielder in his day when he was younger and had legs, and now he's kind of like a second striker almost. But he certainly gets the business done up there, and you can see that he uses his experience to his advantage.
Yeah. Fazio's been looking okay too.
What a big man's header too.
I know that's your old Roma player there, so I mean he's their captain. But another team, kind of like a Luton, right? Has 2 Serie A veterans on their team, trying to lead them to at least out of relegation.
Yeah, I mean, they also had Frank Ribery not too long ago before he retired as well. So,
yep,
I mean,
I forgot about that. It's very true.
They Salernitana. I mean, it's a big result for them. They're currently sitting bottom of the league, so they have to start picking up points and lighting a fire under their ass. So hopefully,
they have Costill too, the goalie from he played for Sassuolo, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was a good goal. He's French. I mean, I'm pretty sure he was in the French national team at one point in time. So, certainly not a bad goalkeeper, that's for sure.
Yeah. But Milan are definitely not doing themselves any favors by dropping points there. Thankfully, they have the gap. They don't lose third place, but
on paper, like Jay said, like that team should be winning games on paper. They should be easily hanging up in the top of the league with Juve and Inter. I mean, yeah, but Juve and Inter, like they should be right there. They shouldn't be 11 points off, like you said. I mean, their team looks fine. I think the players are just having one of those seasons, like Ange said, kind of won too early, and now they're getting a little complacent.
Yeah. Before we left Friday, I wanted to quickly ask you a question because Provedel is now the second Italian keeper we've had a conversation about, right? And being an Italian keeper yourself, you say like up and coming, and you like how they're coming, but they're 27 and 29 respectively, and yeah, we all know that keepers age differently than your average player, but it's tough to compete because say Spalletti wants to hang out in the Italy seat for a while. Do you go with Donnarumma, who's just chasing the money, whatever, but is also an absurd goalkeeper? He's peaking really young. He's still pretty young, right? He's like, what, 28 maybe?
24.
24? Well, see, I thought he was already a couple of years older than that. So he's only 24. So now because he's been spinning around so long already. So he breaks that mold. So do you even bother switching keepers? Do you know what I mean? Like, why not just continue to mold your youth? He's still so malleable. He still has so much space to grow and hit a deeper prime. It's hard to argue, and I want to know what your take would be. It's hard to argue even despite these two keepers being on form, hitting their prime, at the right years, and still having a decent career ahead of them if they go on to be, Buffon, 40 years old.
Yeah.
What do you think on that kind of thing?
For me, goalkeepers' careers are different from outfield players. Like, you're certainly nowhere near the goalkeeper you're going to be at 21 that you will be at 31. In my opinion, you are far, far better at that age at 31 than you will ever be at the age of 21, just because of the experience you'll gain over that amount of time. So, for me, it's really unfortunate for like guys like Vicario and like Provedel, because they are probably good enough to start for, I would say, 95% of the national teams around the world. That's the level they're at, but they have an absolute fucking freak of nature in front of them in Donnarumma, who's been playing since he was 16 years old in the first team. He's got 400 appearances at club level under his belt already. He's probably got almost 100 appearances for Italy already. Like, it's really just unlucky for them that they're not gonna. They'll never be the number one because of that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Donnarumma was always going to be the heir apparent to Buffon's throne as Italy's number one. That's just how it was. And I know I talked about how he's shit with his feet earlier, but at the end of the day, like, you're never going to ever take him out. Yeah. They're not. That's just not going to happen.
I mean, he fits your argument that he won't be the same keeper at 31, and who knows, by 31, it's just still 7 years away, which is insane.
Absolutely absurd.
I forget he's our age. That's why I completely forgot he's like literally our age. In 7 years, he could be a fantastic goalkeeper with his feet. He's already a pretty good goalkeeper with his hands. He's an absolute unit in terms of physical stature. So it is a scary thing, and I think it's unfortunate for keepers.
To say too, I mean, I don't really think Buffon was that good with his feet either. So
he grew up in a different era.
Like, you have like. Yeah, I know, but I mean, Schmeichel was pretty decent with his feet, so he's in the same era. That's why, like, there's always going to be those goalkeepers that are good with their feet. But, like, kind of like you said, he's always going to be the heir to the throne. He kind of is the same, like, he's the same type of player, strict, really good shot stopper. So we'll see if, from 24 to 7 years later, if he is a better keeper at 31, like you said. But I think it is unfortunate for players like Vicario, like you said, having a really good year, but He'll see friendlies, and he might see if Donnarumma gets hurt, they'll get to see the field. Yeah. But that's about it.
Yeah,
we can't take the number one away, because then if they take him away, then they're gonna put him back in when Provedel retires or something, and then he's gonna say no because they disrespected him. Right. Type of thing. If they give him the seat, I mean, how could you? Basically, take it on the chin and then you come back and suck up your pride and play again. I don't think that they would like that. So I agree with G. That's usually why they don't really switch anything around. I wish they would, though. It would be a lot more competitive, and it would be cool to see. But
yeah. All right, G, go ahead and wrap us up with Saturday in Italy.
Yeah, so moving on from that, on Saturday we had a couple, actually some pretty big games, to be honest. I'll talk about the two league leaders first, just because that's a quick little wrap up. But so Inter and Juventus both played lower table sides. I mean, they both came away with results what I would say was pretty expected. A couple youngsters shined in both of these games for Juventus. They had a young midfielder, Kenan Yildiz, got called up for his debut, and he played fantastic, I thought. The goal he scored in this game was pretty good as well. I mean, he sauced up a couple of defenders, cut inside, and beat the goalie at the near post for pace. So I thought it was pretty impressive to see a kid of his age come into the team and make an impact right away. And for Inter, they had young Oral Bissek at the back, who's been playing a couple of games now for them, and he's really been starting to make an impact and prove that he is a very good defender for another young kid. I mean, Inter's a team that's really known for their defensive prowess, and to see a kid of his stature come in and slot right in and really like not even miss a beat in the team, it's another impressive performance in my opinion. And moving on from those two, we had our surprise package Bologna take yet another big head in Italy. In the last 6 days, they've beaten Roma, Inter, and now they've taken off Atalanta. So they're confirmed third place, secured, 1 point ahead of fourth place. They're 1 point ahead of Fiorentina in fifth, which is just absolutely insane. And just another all-round tactical masterclass from Thiago Motta. I mean, this is a classic coach's game, in my opinion. Thiago Motta versus Gasperini, two tactical wonders when it comes to that kind of stuff. And you saw that in the game. I mean, it was 0-0 for a long time. Both teams had some good chances, and it was Bologna who ended up coming away with it. And I think that's all down to their grit and determination this season. And they're just continuing to get the job done. I mean, I can't really understand how they're doing it, but they're doing it week in and week out. And every time I watch them play, I mean, they don't do anything crazy. Like I said, they don't do anything entertaining, but what they do makes sense, and it works. And you can see why it works, and you can see why Thiago Motta does what he does, because they deserve to be where they are. It's plain and simple. I mean, you can't argue with their fourth place spot at all, in my opinion. I don't know if any of you guys have anything to say about them, but I think it's just absolutely insane to see a team like Bologna in fourth place.
Yeah, really impressive. But I mean, I'll ask you this: like, what happened to the league? Because I mean, like, Lazio was pushing for titles not too long ago. Napoli won it last year, and Atalanta's always been solid. And it's just like the big teams that were always competing kind of fell off a lot. I mean, I know Inter and Juve seem to be running away with it, but it just seems like there's not much competition up at the top. It seems like they're just kind of fell.
Yeah, I think it's one of those weird seasons in Italy. It feels like almost every other team besides Juventus and Inter is going through a rebuild right now.
Yeah.
And you're kind of seeing that in the league table. I mean, they're pretty much, it's a two-horse race between them. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's surprising to see teams like Bologna and Fiorentina up there, and it's very surprising to see teams like Lazio and Napoli not even in the European places at all right now, especially considering Napoli's coming off winning the league. But like we said before, and like I'm going to talk about in the Roma game, things are just not going well for them right now. And the other teams, I mean, Lazio, they're weird to me. Like, Lazio, sometimes they scare me. Sometimes I think nothing of them. Like, it's just weird, and you never really know what to expect from Maurizio Sarri and his teams. Like, sometimes they play absolutely exciting football, and sometimes you're like, what are they doing? Why are they doing that? So it doesn't make sense sometimes. And same way,
yeah.
Atalanta's like hit or miss sometimes. Like, Gasperini can pull a blinder out sometimes and beat one of the top teams like he did when they beat Milan, and then other times they'll lose to a Bologna. And not to say that Atalanta played bad, they probably could have won this game just like Bologna did, but it's just one of those things where I think Bologna, they're in fourth place because they deserve it, and they won this game because they deserve it. And I think even if they don't play better than the team that they're playing, they're defensively sound enough and tactically sound enough that they're going to come away with the result regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to. Bologna's team is just like, I mean, looking at it, usually I can look at a team and identify a couple players, but I recognize two players from this entire lineup, honestly. I mean, Salamakers, I know him from because he played at Milan, and I know Ferguson because he played at Aberdeen, because I watch a little bit of Scottish football here and there. So it's just kind of crazy to see them, like you said. I mean, they're top four, and it's just crazy to see because, I mean, their team doesn't really look too good. It's coaching masterclass, I think we're looking at. So,
100%. So yeah, moving on from there, we had the game of the weekend that wrapped up Serie A which was my beloved Roma, took on my dad's Napoli, and it was an absolute firecracker of a game. When I tell you, in my opinion, I think this was Roma's best performance of the season so far. I think Mourinho got the tactics spot on. I think we played exactly how we should play every game, and it makes me wonder why we don't do this every game. Because I thought the energy was fantastic. I thought even when we were out of possession, I think a lot of times this season we've been really complacent and just kind of sit off. But I thought we really pressed Napoli well, and I think that especially when Osimhen and Kvara on the ball, we were very aggressive and right on them, like right away. And I really liked seeing that. So that was really promising for me. I think Paredes had his best game for Roma since he's come back, which is good to see for me because I think our summer signings haven't really lived up to the hype, in my opinion, and he's certainly one that I expected a lot more from, given his reputation. And considering he was with us before and just knowing who he was, I really expected him to come in and make more of an impact than he has. And I thought against Napoli, it was definitely his best performance. But I will say the performer of the day for me was Eduardo Bove. I know I've said it a few times now that I absolutely love this kid because he runs his heart out. And this game was the definition of that in every sense of the word. I mean, he covered every blade of grass. There was a sequence in the game in the first half where he made an unbelievable standing tackle, won the ball, played a perfect through ball to set up Lukaku, followed his pass all the way up the field, got the layoff from Lukaku, and then hit the crossbar. And I think that 30-second sequence just absolutely sums up the type of player that he is. Like, he's all action. He does everything on both ends of the field, and I just love watching him play. And I'm so happy that Mourinho trusts him enough to play in a game like that because he proved it that his trust is worthy. And it was good to see Lukaku come back in and get a goal. I think it was always going to be difficult for us to make a lot of chances in this game, especially not having Dybala. So that was good. And like I said, I think we were very, very good in this game. I think it was really disappointing from Napoli. Overall, I thought their performance was pretty shit, in my opinion. I mean, to have Politano and Osimhen sent off in the second half for real the team capitulated, in my opinion. They all lost their head. They all fell apart. I think the referee, in my opinion, had a stinker too. I mean, that didn't really help. He had no control of the game from really the first 5 minutes. And he gave out like 15 yellow cards, I think it was, in the game. Like, it was something absolutely ridiculous. Like, he just had no idea what was going on. He just wasn't making the right calls, and I think he was kind of at fault for Napoli's reaction in the second half, and for them just losing their heads, really. Because I really struggled, both ways. I struggled to really see what he was calling at times, and like I said, he just had no control on the game. So it was just kind of
15 cards. I think I just counted.
Yeah, it was disappointing to see the game a little bit ruined from that standpoint by the referee. But for Napoli, it's just the story of their season. I mean, they've been really fucking disappointing to me. I mean, to defend your title like this is just a shame. I mean, it's a disgrace in my opinion. I know they didn't really set themselves up for success going into the season, letting Spalletti go in the way they did, but I think that this game itself really sums them up. I mean, I think it's their season in a nutshell, really. They weren't at it from the get-go. And yeah, I mean, Kvara and Osimhen really never had a kick in this game. Osimhen had one chance in the first half. Kvara really never showed his true colors at all in the game. Politano, who's probably been their best player this season, I don't even know why he's doing that to get the red card. I don't know if you guys saw it, but Zalewski pulls him back for a tactical foul, and he just jumps and kicks him. Like, why are you doing that? Yeah. Like, you just want a free kick for your team to move your team up the field, and you go and get yourself sent off in a game that's 0-0 at the time. Like, what are we doing here? Like, that's not the Napoli that we have all known over the last season. So I really can't seem to understand what's going on there, and I really think, I mean, Mohamed Sarri just got there, and I think his days are numbered already, to be quite honest with you. I can't see where they go from here. I really don't. I mean, it's tough. Like, it really is, because I have to say I have a soft spot for Napoli. I know this is a derby game. It's the Derby della Sole. It's not a team I should like because I'm a Roma fan, but I mean, it's where my family's from. It's my dad's team. I've always had a soft spot for Napoli. I would have liked to see them do well this season, considering they won the Scudetto last season. I would have liked to see them put up a good fight. It would have been good for the league as a whole. But I mean, to see them where they are, I mean, they're almost 20 points off. Like it's pretty sad actually when you think about it. I don't know if you guys have any takes on it, but
yeah, no, I think that's an impressive result for Roma. But you got another test coming up next. You got Juve, so you guys definitely got the luck of the draw on that scheduling.
I mean,
we'll see how it goes.
It's Mourinho's first win against a top 6 side since he started coaching us, so it's definitely a massive result. But like you said, if we can do it again this week, then I'll really be a happy camper.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, like Jay said, a good result. I think there's still a lot of room to improve. And I said it before, I think you guys need squad improvement, but we'll see how that plays out next week in that Juve game. And that shit about... Oh, go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, sorry, I wanted to just touch on Roma a little bit. So, I mean, just from looking at, like, the events, I mean, G was talking about how he didn't have control of the game, the referee. So, I mean, if they didn't get those red cards, do you think that you guys could have edged it out with a goal? Or do you think that, I mean, obviously playing down a man is not helpful. Playing down 2 definitely isn't. So they kind of opened themselves up there getting those cards, and, you know, you guys capitalized on it, which is great for you guys. But, I mean, if they didn't get the cards, I mean, it seemed to be just like a back-and-forth game. Didn't look like you guys broke through on the big chances you had and kind of capitalized only when they were down men. So you think it could have finished maybe like a nice 0-0 draw and like a kind of an embarrassing attacking performance from Roma missing some chances, or like how do you kind of feel on that aspect?
Personally, I felt like we should have gone to halftime 1-0 up. Bove missed a really good chance in the first half, but Merritt also made a pretty good save on it. So I can't give him too much shit for missing. But I think if the red cards didn't happen, it probably finishes 0-0, in my honest opinion. I think as soon as Politano gets sent off, I think that really discouraged the Napoli team a lot. It really did. I think they really... I can't say they gave up on the game, but I think they just... It made it a lot harder for them to believe in getting a result. And it was good. It's good. I mean, it's for us. It's great. I mean, I love to see Pellegrini coming in and getting a goal. It's only his second goal this season, especially considering the stature of the player he is. I mean, he's squad captain. He should be doing a lot more, and he's a player that's expected to do a lot more and has done a lot more in the past. And honestly, I'm pretty disappointed that he hasn't done a lot more this season. So hopefully this can kickstart it for him, and he can get it going this season, because he's someone that I expected to contribute, especially when Dybala's not on the pitch.
Got it. Yeah, just from looking at it, I mean, it looked like it was going to be 0-0 the whole game until they got the Reds, but, you know, great for you guys. I'm glad to see the result there.
Absolutely.
Try to push towards Europe.
100%.
Yep. So I think that about wraps us up with the games this weekend, which brings us to our little ending close segment where we do our 5-a-side team, where we have a goalkeeper, a defender, a midfield forward, and a flex. We will go one by one. This should be probably pretty Prem heavy. Obviously, we had a double round weekend. A lot of Prem games, couple of Serie A games. So we're going to see a lot of our Premier League player names in there. G, as always, give us our best goalkeeper of the weekend.
Yep, as I said earlier in the Serie A review, I have to give it, as much as I hate it, to a Lazio goalkeeper and our boy Ivan Provedel for his wonderful performance against Lecce. So shout out to him, 7 saves, 7 unreal saves too. So big ups to him for getting in the 5-side this week.
Yeah, I can totally agree with that. I'll go ahead and do the defender of the week. I think it was tough. I didn't think there was a lot of defenders that really stood out per se, with any huge performances. But I thought, as a club, Liverpool had a good weekend, only conceding, I believe, once to Arsenal, over 2 games. And I think TAA Trent had a great, obviously, assist to Mo Salah, and then had a great game against Burnley. So I think, for me, he gets in on the best defender of the week. Jay, for midfielders.
For me, I'm probably gonna put it somewhere between either probably Lamina or Bernardo Silva. For best performances, Lamina more over 2 games than just this weekend. But I'll probably lean Lamina for me, just because I think Bernardo in City is kind of like they've got enough contributors, but I think Lamina really moved that team forward.
Could have mentioned your secret fandom of Wolves too, if you wanted to as well. So
Yeah, a little bit of a soft spot, but yeah, now that they've pretty much cleaned house with the better Portuguese players, not as big.
Go ahead, Patrick. Give us our forward of the weekend.
So a couple options here. No, I'm just kidding. There's only really one option that you really can have. It's going to be Chris Wood. I mean, we're talking Boxing Day hat trick. I mentioned the company he's in earlier. I mean, just an outstanding performance. 3 shots, 3 goals. So it's just he's got to be there for me. So he's my striker, my forward of the week.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I will say, for the flex, I want to throw out 2 names, and I think quickly we'll just do a little vote. I think Solanke also got a hat trick at the weekend. Had 4 goals this weekend, and then our boy Antonio Candreva, who at 36 had a great game. I think those are the 2 names that we should put for our flex. We've been doing a lot of defenders for the flex, so I think a forward this week would be great. So go ahead and give me your vote. G, I'll start with you.
It's a tough one. I think I'm gonna have to give it to my boy Kandreva, just because it's good. It's always good to see an old boy doing his tricks and getting things done for their teams. So I'm gonna throw Kandreva as the flex this week.
I mean, that's why I threw him in there. Okay, how about you, Jay?
I'm stuck in the middle. I mean, I'm probably gonna lean. I'm fine either way, but I'm probably gonna leave Solanke lean Solanke rather, because I think a little bit more impressive in terms of the volume, and he's doing it for a team that's going through a real good period right now. So I'll probably lean Solanke.
Yep. And Patrick.
I'm also going to lean Mr. Dom Solanke. I mean, we're talking 4 goals in 2 games. Not to hate on Kandreva or anything, but once G said that Mike Magnan made a mistake, and the little, Kandreva caught him, kind of a rinky-dink goal, it sounds like, but the Premier League hat trick will always reign true. I mean, we're talking Premier League hat trick and a 3-2 win, so did it all by himself. So that's my vote for the flex.
Yeah, I won't make it a deadlock. I threw Kandreva in there because I think it was just worth the shout. I think he deserves the honorable mention. But yeah, I think Solanke, 4 goals between 2 games is worth it. So it's been a great episode. Again, happy holidays. Enjoy the rest of the time with your family. We will be catching you in the new year with a weekend review. We'll also be looking at the halfway point in all the big leagues this year. We're going to talk about all of our predictions as far as who will win, who will go down, and who will be in Europe this season. So we'll catch you next week. So keep on being a son of a pitch.